Hey folks, welcome back to the Dev Twitch stream. My name is Nick Taylor. I'm a lead software engineer at Forum. Forum is the software that powers dev. And today I'm super stoked to be hanging out with Sunil Pai from the workers team at Cloudflare. Sunil, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sure you're a busy, busy man. Um, why don't you tell the folks a bit about yourself in case they might not know who you are?
Hi, Nick. Super happy to be here. My name is Sunil. I'm a tech lead on the developer productivity team for Cloudflare workers. I've done a bunch of gigs before this. I spent a year in JP Morgan, well, a bank really, for a little while before this. Previous to that, I was on the React team for a bit. Did a bunch of stuff on Oculus. Uh, I was doing an e-commerce gig back home in India for called Mintra. That was really fun. So I've done like a
Oh,
little bit
cool.
of everything. We've now been doing this for about like 15, 16 years. So right now
Yeah.
it's all about like, Cloudflare workers. And the thing I'm right now working on is redoing our CLI, which is called Wrangler. But otherwise, involved in a bunch of like separate small things for helping people actually use workers as a platform.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I didn't realize you were working on the CLI directly. Also, shout out to for folks who might not know. I mean, you've done a lot of work in open source. Like, I remember like Glamour, which was a CSS and JS. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Emotion the Emotion CSS and JS library inspired by that too?
Yeah, 100%. No, in like,
Okay.
yeah, Emotions run by Kai and Mitchell Hamilton, of course. And I don't know if they're doing anyone else. But yeah, it's effectively the same API. And once I stopped working on Glamour, they just took it and made Emotion the best, fastest CSS in JS solution. And I would
Yeah.
actually recommend people just use that right now. It's so good. It's really good.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. So I guess let's start off with a few things. So first, what the heck are workers?
Oh man, okay, like good question. And honestly, this is the question that I get most often. So Cloudflare traditionally has been what we would call like an infrastructure company. They do DNS, they do caching, a bunch of stuff on the edge, so to speak. So maybe we should start there. Like, what is the edge?
Okay.
Because that is another question that people ask, which is, well, what
Yeah.
really is the edge? And it's it's part marketing, but part it makes sense. So it's a massive network of effectively data centers around the world. So Cloudflare, for
Okay.
example, is in about 250 cities, and it's I think something like 10,000 partners, which includes ISPs and so and so. But instead
Okay.
of Cloudflare literally building their own data centers, right? Like they'll go straight up to the ISPs and say, "Let us install hardware like in your buildings, like
Oh, no
right
way.
next
Okay.
to where all the switches and the routers are." So that's how close it is to, well, the edge.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and that's great because like there are a number of nice things about it, but the best thing about it is that it is the closest that it can be to your actual device when you
Okay.
like make a request. That's one thing. So about 4 or 5 years ago, uh, a principal engineer. I don't know what Kenton's actual official title is inside. Anyway, so they were using that for DNS and caching and stuff, which is great, right? Like,
Yeah.
so what you would do is if you had a website, you'd sign up for a Cloudflare account, and in 2 minutes, you'd say, hey, just make sure that uh, the requests come to Cloudflare before they go to like my actual website, which you would call
Okay.
origin servers. So the opposite of edge is origin. And Cloudflare would literally just cache stuff for you on the edge on these machines, which means
Yeah.
that anyone else who started making requests to this, it would literally go to the edge, and
Okay.
instead of going all the way to your origin. So there are two nice factors, things about that, which are your origin server doesn't get as many requests, so it doesn't like fall over. If you have traffic, you don't pay as much. But also
Yeah.
because these caches are so close to the users, it starts loading way faster, like immediately faster. So like there's one way you can make your website faster, which is to make it lighter. But the other way
Hmm.
is to literally truck the website to within driving distance of the user, right? Like, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of what Cloudflare does. Anyway, so a few years ago, Kenton disappears for a couple of months, just totally not in contact with other people. And he shows up and he's like, I've figured it out. The product is called Workers. We are now going to run JavaScript on all these machines.
Yeah.
Which is uh, which is a little well, like people already run JavaScript on machines using something called Node, right? But
Yeah.
Node is was designed for origin servers in the sense that it takes a little bit of time, like to start up. It makes sense when it's like a long running process, but it's hard to do that when you want to deploy like Node everywhere across the world. It's not good software
Yeah.
per se for that. So this is where things like serverless comes in. AWS has something called Lambda at Edge. But those things still run Node, which means, for example, every time you make a request, so the idea is that it spins up roughly a new process for every request, not necessarily.
Okay.
But if you're running something like Node, it means that you're incurring a cost of like 200 milliseconds for every request. Like it's 200 milliseconds before anything can even get started.
Yeah.
Workers are different. Cloudflare workers are different in that they're designed for a serverless thing. So they don't have as much baggage as Node has, but it also means fewer APIs. But
Okay.
it's we run something called V8 isolate. So V8 is the JavaScript engine that powers Chrome and Edge, of course.
Yeah.
It's only the JavaScript engine, not the rest of the web engine, which like renders the web page. It runs just the JavaScript, and it's
Yeah.
enhanced with APIs like fetch and stuff. And it says, hey, these are really cheap to start up and tear down. So we can spin up hundreds and thousands of
Okay.
them on a server, and that makes sense when you're like, oh, a request comes, you spin it up, and it has zero startup time,
Okay.
roughly, effectively zero startup time. There are a couple of blog posts out there with details on it. Uh, but okay, so the difference is instead of something taking 200 milliseconds or you spending money like hosting Node on a bunch of servers, this thing starts up immediately and is so far close to you, and it can
Hmm.
return to you HTML, and we will go into that. We will write some actual code. It can return some HTML, and that's the
Okay.
request, and it will expect over. It can return HTML, images, anything that a
Okay.
regular server can do. But the performance difference is drastic. Um, in fact, you know what? Instead of me like just showing numbers, let me just share my screen and I'll show you uh, the workers website itself, right? So if you go to workers.cloudflare.com and you
Yeah.
scroll down, it tells you how far away it is, what the latency for a request is. And here it's saying it's 9 milliseconds, 9, 11. Well, let's just keep hitting it.
Okay.
So between 9 to 12. So within 10 to 12 milliseconds, it can spin up a server, process something, return you the content, and you're done. Which means that in
Okay.
the time it takes for Node to start up, you can do 20 requests. Like you could literally
Okay.
return an entire website in the time it takes for Node to start up on your Lambda at Edge or somewhere else, which is
Okay.
massive. Like that's crazy, right? So this is why
Yeah.
everyone is super excited about. Uh, oh, wait, let me just stop sharing so I can see your face again.
Uh,
I love it when it does that whole fractal thing, and we have just accepted
yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
artifact
The
of human
Inception
math.
or like. Yeah. Yeah. So
Anyway, so
I guess. Yeah. Go ahead.
so this is why everyone is so excited about it because it's so fast, and if you write software that can really take advantage of it, you can get
Hmm.
these drastic performance and architecture improvements in your software. So one popular recent software that's taking advantage of this is the Remix framework. It's
Okay. Yeah.
built so that it can run on stuff like workers natively. It doesn't use any Node APIs, right? So it just
Okay.
works on like workers. So anytime they trot out a benchmark, they're like, oh, it's running on Cloudflare workers. That's why. Um, so does that? We can talk about like the actual code and stuff, but yeah, that's roughly what
Yeah.
Cloudflare works. It lets you write really tiny, not tiny scripts. You can run full applications right now. I should stop saying tiny. I say tiny because,
Yeah.
well, you don't. It actually takes a lot less code than it would in a Node world. But you can
Okay.
write code, JavaScript
Yeah.
that can like literally handlers where like, oh, like a request comes in, respond to it with an entire website or just an API or whatever. The
Okay.
other thing that's nice about Cloudflare is that it's not just running these things. It also has data. So the 2 or 3 things that we have like 3 or 4 different things for data. So one is called a KV store. KV stands for key value. KV also stands
Okay.
for Kenton Varda, who's the guy who invented workers, but that's a separate conversation. So it's a key value store. It's a very simple like key value But the
Yeah.
nice thing about it is that these things are replicated also across the edge, which means
Okay.
that you can, if you store data in it, if you literally say, hey, put this value A, which is 123, it'll get replicated in 250 cities based on like usage patterns. So your
Yeah.
code is on the edge, your data is on the edge, it can't get faster than that. Like the only way for it to get
Yeah. Yeah.
actually faster is if you host one of these Cloudflare switches like behind your washing machine in your house. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
way. By the way, that's the dream. I assume within 10 years, Cloudflare will start selling hardware that you can just like, okay, would you like the edge in your house? That would be
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
amazing, I think.
Yeah. Every time I hear Edge, I mean, it's I'm dating myself a bit, but I always have Aerosmith living on the edge popping in my head. Like
So there's
marketing should
Aerosmith
take
living on
take
the
that.
edge. There's also the wrestler, The Edge,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
WWE. Well, it was called WWF at the time.
yeah, yeah,
And I think there's a rapper as well called The Edge. I don't know. But yeah,
yeah,
it's an overused term at this. And that's just it. I think everyone is now jumping on. Uh, there are people who have like 4 data centers and say, okay, like we are the edge. But
yeah.
there are some other actually great players, right? Like Cloudflare Workers has not invented the edge, even though we do a fairly good job. There are other
Okay.
players, and I say players and not competitors because part of my dream is that they actually watch live streams like this and they see that, hey, Sunil is saying that he would like to collaborate with us. So if anyone from
Yeah.
Fastly, Deno, even AWS wants to sneak into my DMs and like become friends with me because I just love like nerding out on this shit. And it's kind of weird that capitalism prevents me from talking to interesting people at these places. Please feel free to reach out to me. I would be very happy to.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, we use Fastly for like on Dev too. Yeah, and it's super fast too. I guess like we'll definitely dig into some more stuff, but I had, I guess, some questions about the edge, and like we kind of talked about this briefly the other day, but uh, like I know, I think you filled in most of the holes that I had in my understanding of it so far, but like I think, or maybe it was just me, but I feel like a lot of people confuse a CDN with the edge, and they're definitely not the same thing, and like I guess the main difference is the CDN is only there to serve assets, not act as kind of like a closer server to you, right? That's like the big difference, I would say.
Yes, traditionally, a content delivery network has always been about, well, can you put assets in these areas, static assets, JavaScript, especially things that don't ever change. I think that's also the deal with CDNs, which is that this is data
Yeah.
that doesn't change, which is why it's so hard to invalidate something once you put it on a CDN, which is, and
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I don't know if you, well, for the audience, I suppose, which is when you bundle your JavaScript application, you'll notice that the files are generated with little hashes in them, right? Like, so it'll be
Yeah. Yeah.
bundle dash AF32 whatever dot JS. And the hash is based on the actual content of the bundle. And this is why, by the way, because if you didn't do that, it would be so hard to invalidate something on the CDN. Instead, by adding these hashes, you can just have multiple files and your HTML file asks for it by hash, which means also that,
Yeah.
for example, you can have multiple versions of the application running at the same time, but it wouldn't clash. You wouldn't get new old assets and different things. But yeah, that's how Workers is different from CDN. Even though we have a great CDN, we use the
Yeah.
CDN for all our static stuff. But the real power comes by the fact that you can run code. You can do whatever you want. It's
Okay.
This is the difference between, as a more familiar example, this is the difference between a service worker and app cache. You remember like manifests that we had before service
Yeah. Yeah.
workers? We could do only static assets in that, but service workers let you write code, surprisingly, in a syntax that's very similar to workers. And that's not an accident. I think it was
Yeah.
purposely
Yeah.
done that
Yeah.
way. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the difference, that you can actually write, you can program stuff at the edge to respond however you want it to. And you can, of course, return
Okay.
static assets, but it's way more interesting when you can return dynamic stuff. And the thing that we're actually working on becoming the best in the world at is streaming stuff. So literally
Okay.
readable, writable streams, and also like WebSockets. By the by the end of the quarter, we will have like such a great story for WebSockets because we have durable objects, but we'll talk about that soon.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm gonna drop a link to the durable objects there too. Uh, Yeah, I'm kind of laughing a bit at what you're talking about with the CDNs with the content hashes because I don't know, wherever I end up working always, I always seem to be the person that takes care of all things Webpack. It just happens. It's not like I'm like, hey, pick me. And I remember fixing some issues where like we were having slow, like it was a big app and it was a kind of mix of React and like old Sencha and stuff, but I remember that there was a bug and it was just the Webpack config. It wasn't a big like fix, but I changed it from like because you can have a build hash versus like a content hash. And so I just switched it to content hash, and then all of a sudden, all these clients were seeing like super fast load times because it wasn't re-downloading all the assets. So and it makes me think too of like in older times, like pre-bundlers, it's like, the script's not updating. Okay, let's push a fix. Let's add a query string, and it's like,
Query strings was the way to do it before that. And
yeah,
inevitably, there would be problems where sometimes somebody would ask for something with the query string, but it hadn't updated yet. So it would still pick up the older thing. So now you have to push
yeah,
another query string update. Oh man, the mid 2000s were a little painful when it came to web development. Oh,
yeah,
these are
yeah,
just non
yeah,
issues now. That's so good.
yeah.
Hmm.
Shout out to Dreamweaver. Um,
Right?
Cool, cool. You were mentioning durable objects, and we can talk about that in a bit. But I think, like from what I've read, because I'm not super well versed in all things Cloudflare, um, like from what my understanding though is that your team or teams at Cloudflare have set out to build like this amazing set of primitives that you can build upon, and so like the workers, durable objects, which we'll get into, the key value store, and then from there people can literally build whatever they want, but they're like solid foundations for building pretty cool stuff.
It's kind of crazy, right? So again, you know me, I'm just going to brain dump on you for a while. Workers was I don't mean to sound like a corporate shill here, but Cloudflare is one of the few companies where I reached out to them. I was like, please hire me. I want to like work on this specific thing. Uh, and it's because it seems very interesting to me what they're doing, which is actually, I think they're trying to do stuff very differently, but still try to be appealing to the regular software crowd. Let me explain what I mean, right? Okay, so workers they
Yeah,
invented
yeah.
4 or 5 years ago. And that started off a change in the company, not just from a technology thing, right? Which is like, oh, now we have to
Mhm.
figure out how to support this and solve. It's not without its trade offs, right? Like, for example, the size of the script that you send up can be a maximum of 1 MB compressed. But
Okay.
so now you have to learn how to, for example, split it up into multiple things. And you can't do a dynamic import of other things, like you have to talk to it via. There are
Okay.
different architecture considerations, but that's the way to scale for the planet. Like, that's how you write code that can sort of
Yeah,
envelop the
yeah.
plan. I like making this gesture and trying people that it's not serverless. It's actually one server, and the shape of the server is like a sticky balloon that's enveloping the planet. So that's the
Okay, okay.
shape of the Cloudflare server. Is how I like to think. Anyway, so KV store is one of the. It's just a plain KV store, and
Hmm.
it's a plain key value store that replicates across the network. So you would use that, for example, when you have read heavy use cases, like let's say a
Okay.
blog, right? Like you want to like fetch data that doesn't change that often, and you just want to like uh, populate an HTML page and send it out. KV is great for that. There's
Okay.
another
Yeah.
one that we announced. I'll talk about durable objects in a second, but I do want to talk about R2 before that. So we announced R2 last year, which is
Okay.
conveniently one character and one number away from S3. And again, that's not an accident either. So that is our large object store. So for things that are way
Okay.
bigger, like videos and giant images and photos and what have you, right? Or even database, well, database backups, I guess. Um, the the way that it's actually different from S3, and it's something that Cloudflare wants to push onto the industry as a whole and get everyone onto it, is that Cloudflare doesn't charge you for, I learned this word, egress charges. So
Yeah, yeah.
it charges you for storage, but it doesn't charge you for the bits that actually leave and enter uh, the
Okay.
servers. Okay. It turns out that that's actually a big cost when you use something like an S3. I'm
Okay.
not. I'm picking on S3 because they're the most popular version of it. But anyone who actually does like data storage, they charge you for both the storage and the bandwidth. But
Okay.
Cloudflare and a bunch of other partners, including Microsoft and I won't say Google, maybe some other people, they're part of something called the Bandwidth Alliance. And they've
Okay.
managed to, because the economics of the way Cloudflare has set these things up, and again, there are blog posts on this. The Cloudflare blog is amazing. You can spend days just reading all of it. It's just a engineer's
Okay.
heaven, just all the posts. Anyway, so Cloudflare has zero egress costs. They do not charge you for it.
Okay.
So which means that your data is suddenly portable. Like if you're not comfortable with R2, you want to use something like Blaze, I think you can.
Okay.
It's free to like export. It's just free to like just take your data out and move it out of there.
Okay.
So that's one solution. The thing that the thing that really like gets me going is durable objects, and I'll try to explain it to you. Okay, uh, explain it to you with a. So in 2020, while I was working in JP Morgan, that's when they announced durable objects. Uh, and I read it and I was like, this is the most sci-fi shit I've seen like in my life. Okay, so the idea is that, and of course there are caveats, and I might be describing it a little fancy. Uh, so imagine if there's a literal JavaScript object
Okay.
that can manifest itself a in the data center that's closest to you. When you ask to create one, like you're like, hey, make a new durable object. So it
Okay.
can create it in the data center near you. So I'm in London, and from what I hear, our data center is in Heathrow. So it'll be created in those machines. But
Okay.
then, and I think they're still working on making this feature work correctly. After I use it, let's say I store some data on it, something, whatever, and I shut my device off, and then you try to make a request to it. Then there's the capability for this object to jump across data centers onto the one that's closest to you. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a JavaScript object that can hop across uh, data centers.
Roll
So
around
it
the sticky
and you
balloon.
and you don't like a sticky balloon, I guess. Like it just goes like a magnet close to whoever's asking for it. And that's interesting in itself. It starts
Yeah.
getting even more interesting where if you and I both are asking for it, then it could potentially find the data center that's in between us, so that we
Oh,
both
okay.
have this thing. That's one thing that's really fun about it. It has some storage as well, which is why it's called a durable object, which is persistent. Like it doesn't actually lose. Like uh, you don't lose that data, but it
Okay.
suddenly also starts acting as a great synchronization primitive. And when I say synchronization primitive, for example, it's great for holding on uh, in pre-durable objects days. If you're not using durable objects and you want to build something with WebSockets, right? It's a
Yeah.
little annoying because let's say that you and I are building. Let's say I'm writing a chat application, right?
Yeah.
If my application was hosted on just one server, it would be very easy for me to say, hey, one WebSocket from you to me, from me to the server, and one WebSocket from you to the server, and we can now start swapping messages, right? Like
Okay.
little
Yeah.
chat
Gotcha.
message. But in a serverless world and in a just in a distributed world, forget about serverless for a while. Let's say now you deploy to 5 servers. So
Yeah.
now if we need to do WebSocket and we need to talk to each other, we need to make sure that we connect to the same server. If we connect to
Yeah.
different servers, there's no way for us to pass messages across to each other. And suddenly this gets exacerbated in the serverless land, where now you need special logic that's covering your other logic, which starts acting as a load balancer for people who are talking to each other. And even that's
Okay.
hard, right? Like, what if you have one chat room which is super popular? It can take down the server, even though you have, let's say, 12 other servers that you can distribute the load to. So
Yeah. Yeah.
durable
Okay.
so now durable object suddenly becomes this incredibly powerful primitive to solve that. Uh, you say one durable object, and then whoever asks for that object to connect to the object, they connect to the exact same object in the same server by default. Okay.
Okay.
And it's like efficiently located somewhere near you. Durable objects are single threaded. So one durable object might not be sufficient for like thousands and thousands of people to connect. But then you can use multiple, you can actually design an architecture by yourself where you can distribute the load across multiple durable objects. But because it's an actual primitive in your code where you can literally be like x dot connect, and that's not the API, but I'm saying like
Yeah.
let's say you have an array of durable objects, you can literally make connections between durable objects itself. So you
Okay.
can distribute a chat room across objects if you'd like, and like talk across them. there's a lot of potential here suddenly where it's such a super powerful synchronization primitive. You can use it as a, if you're designing a data, let's say you now want to design a planetary scale and not planet scale, which is a great product in itself. But a planetary scale database, then you would use durable objects for optimizing writes. So all writes would
Okay.
potentially go to durable objects. So anyone makes a read and they want to make sure they're getting a fresh value, they can read off a durable object until it finally gets persisted down to a storage layer like KV, right?
Okay.
Like that's how, and that's usually how databases are designed, right? Like there'll be a log of like actions that are coming in, and then those keep getting converted into like tables that are easy to read from or cached, so on.
Hmm.
So these are the levels of like. There's also a cache API which is used for literally you can cache response and request response objects. I think I don't know about request objects. Haven't used it too
Okay.
much. I think we're also looking at the API and trying to make it better.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the idea. So you have code, you write workers. You have data, you can write, you can use KV, R2, etc. And for stuff that's in the middle, you start using stuff like durable objects. So this is
Okay.
the span of primitives that we have. There's a number of other things. For example, we are working on something called services right now, which is remember I mentioned like you because it's only a 1 MB bundle size, you might want to split your application into multiple workers.
Yeah.
So um, so services are our first class primitive that we're building that helps you do this slightly easily. So it lets you do environments. You can have 5 workers, but you
Okay.
can deploy to a staging version of those 5 workers. You can start talking between workers, like you can just make fetch calls, and it won't go all the way around the internet. Like because it
Okay.
knows it's talking between 2 workers, it's like it's like two processes talking to each other on your own laptop, for example. Like it'll be running
Okay.
in the same metal colo something. Uh,
It-
but yeah, these are the start of. I don't know if we have any other major announcements for primitives. Probably not, or I'm too stupid to remember right now. Uh, but this is the idea. Like the the vision for how distributed applications should be built across the planet is not by taking software that we have uh, or by taking some good ideas from the software we had in the past, but really redesigning it for the
Mhm.
serverless workers world that we see in the future. So, for example, when you do a
Okay.
deploy onto workers, right, you don't get to choose a region like AWS. You don't get to say US East 1 or something like that. No, it's
Okay.
just one thing, Earth. And based on usage, algorithms figure out where to deploy these things efficiently and like pull it across. So that's pretty nice, I
Okay.
think.
Okay. Maybe Mars at some point if Elon has his way.
So that
Um,
would be region 2. That would be the
yeah, yeah,
second
region
region
two. Yeah,
for
yeah.
Cloudflare.
Cool, cool, cool. And I guess the nice thing about these things is people don't have to worry about synchronization when they use these primitives, right? Like it's just built in. Like they can just say new durable object and let them worry about the complex stuff. Um,
Exactly, exactly. Like you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about whether your user is connecting to the right server because
okay.
naturally by code it just does it by itself.
Yeah. No, and I think that's super powerful, like as a paradigm for doing development because people just want to build things, and like obviously we need to solve those hard problems, but like a lot of those hard problems have been solved from these primitives, for example. So it's just nice where somebody can just say like, hey, I'm gonna build this now, and you know, giving that ability to focus on, I just want to work on my idea, not so much. I mean, you still have to be concerned about the technology, obviously, but
Hmm.
it kind of like there's a layer, there's a piece of your brain where you're like, yeah, don't need to worry about that now. So I think that's pretty
Maybe
cool.
maybe we should discuss a little bit of the trade-offs because I make a point of crunching my face up when people talk about technology and don't mention the bad things about it. And I can talk about like the trade-offs because I think the
Yeah.
trade-offs are important because they actually influence like the architecture of your application. So, for
Yeah.
example, one of the trade-offs the first thing that you usually notice when you workers is, like I mentioned, which is the size of your script can't be over 1 MB.
Yeah.
Now we are actually announced a little while ago that we are going to start increasing that, but assume that it's not going to be like you will never have 100 MB work compressed. Now,
Okay.
1 MB is actually plenty for a lot of use cases. For context, React and React DOM together, I think are about 40K right now. 50
Yeah,
maybe,
so
I don't know,
still pretty
something like
tiny.
40, 50K. Yeah, it's not too bad. So you can imagine, and I'm saying 1 MB compressed is the limit. And this doesn't include static assets and stuff. That's separate.
Oh, okay,
That
okay.
you can use KV and stuff like this. Is just the JavaScript has to be under that. And that's pretty, so that's pretty great, like for a lot of use cases. But occasionally you'll suddenly like start bumping against the thing. So I'll give you an example of,
Yeah.
let's say you want to build uh, an online code editor, like Code
Okay.
Sandbox. Okay.
Yeah.
Not only do you want to do Code Sandbox, but you want to also do compiling and bundling. So let's say you want to run ES build on the edge.
Okay.
Okay. So the ES build, what you would do, you can't run native code. Like I said, you can only run JavaScript. You can run
Yeah.
WASM. So you look at the WASM runtime, and the
Okay.
WASM runtime bundle is 5 MB, which you can't run. Now
Yeah.
suddenly you're screwed. And ES build is awesome. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite softwares. The new Wrangler is
Uh,
powered by ES build.
quick question for you before you continue there. Rust is obviously super popular, WASM, but also just Rust in general these days. Is
Mhm.
is there going to be support at some point, writing on the edge in Rust, or is that?
No, we have first class support for that, which is to
Oh,
say
okay,
we have
okay,
WASM support. We have WASM
okay, okay,
support, but we also have a project called Workers RS, and I am just about to drop the link to that in the chat,
okay, cool.
which is a little framework which does all the setup for how to build your Rust code, and I think even some sample stuff. I'm just
Okay,
going to drop it in chat.
cool.
But yes, we support Rust. In fact, like there are a lot of fans of Rust in the company, so which is why it happened.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And more importantly, the WASM builds for a Rust program are usually underneath 1 MB, so it's actually much easier to
Okay,
get that running on work.
gotcha.
Uh, so, sorry, ooh, I haven't like just chatted like this in a while. Um, anyway, so you end up in this position where there are some things that it's very hard to actually run just because of like bundle size. So the way to
Yeah,
solve it for ES build right now, um, you make a custom build with just the functions that you want to use, and you can get it to somewhere under 2 MB, and then you reach out
okay.
to a Cloudflare employee and say to 2 MB. That's another
Hook me
great thing
up, hook
about
me up.
Cloudflare, by the way. Like our customer service is awesome. Like you can literally get into DMs and be like, "Please fix this for me. I'm seeing issues," and we're like, "Yeah, we'll fix it." Um,
That's awesome.
Cool. So that's one of the trade-offs. Uh, some other trade-offs are databases, right? So I mentioned
Hmm.
this. Right now, the database story is a little iffy, and so traditionally from Node, when you connect like to a database, MySQL or whatever, you
Yeah,
literally create a socket connection, right? Like you make a connection to the database and you start exchanging messages and data. If you do
yeah,
this in a serverless, you can just DDoS your database because it'll suddenly get thousands of connections immediately and your
yeah, yeah.
database will just fall over. Which is why our current recommendation is to actually use a database product that has been built for serverless. So your Superbase, PlanetScale, um, Zata is one of the new maybe, I guess, Firebase. Uh,
Yeah.
but again, we also announced in November that we have started experiments for connecting to databases directly. And the way I think, so I'm speculating here. You don't have to take this as like secret plans or whatever. But it's by using durable objects because durable objects become a synchronization tool, right? So you can say, hey,
Yeah.
spin up 5 of them, and all requests to databases have to go through durable objects.
Okay.
Okay, so instead of having thousands of connections, you'll end up having 5, let's say per colo. We're calling
Okay.
these
Yeah.
colo level actors and stuff. And we are having an API where you'll be able to actually connect to a database using like your MySQL driver or whatever it is. So
Okay. Yeah.
that's kind of the story. There's nothing for me to share here right now. I can't think, even though we sort of already
Yeah.
have it working. But that's the trade-off, and it's a trade-off not because Cloudflare hasn't solved it. It's a trade-off of physics, right? Like the moment you end up having an architecture like this, where you have potentially thousands of points that can connect to something, and you have to
Yeah.
rethink how you do database.
Yeah.
Another
For
great
sure.
product that's built for the edge is CockroachDB, and I think they have a serverless offering right now, like literally a service. So
Okay.
CockroachDB is a distributed database, but you get to talk to it with SQL like a regular database. It's quite nice. Great
Okay.
product,
Okay.
by the way. Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, so that's what I got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that's good.
we can jump into code at some point if you'd like.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Definitely, I'd love to. I mean, we've been talking about all these primitives, and you mentioned Wrangler before, so maybe let's talk a bit about what Wrangler is, and then maybe we can. I don't want to use the pun. I used it in the tweet there. We'll wrangle in all the things Cloudflare, but
All the things.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, let's talk
Okay,
briefly about that, and then let's maybe try using Wrangler and see what we can get up
awesome,
to.
awesome. So let me tell you about it first, I guess. Um, so uh, Wrangler is our CLI for using workers. It's the
Hmm.
equivalent of it's like Node, I suppose. It's a little different from stuff like Node because uh, it's a little different because, well, for one thing, when you say Node, right, you'll write a little script and you'll say, "Hey, Node index.js," and
Yeah.
it'll run the code for you. It'll do whatever. Uh, with Wrangler, you have two options there. One, it can either run locally or
Okay.
it can run on the edge itself. So when you actually say, "Hey," when you're developing, you can have the
Hmm.
entire thing actually running on the edge, which is great because it gets very close to your one is that it's very close to your production setup, so you're not in for any surprises.
Yeah. Yeah.
But two, you get access to KV stores and durable objects and stuff like that. That being said,
Okay.
even our local solutions is a Wrangler used to be only remote. We didn't have like a local
Okay.
solution. It used to be only remote. And that's great for a bunch of use cases, but it sucks, for example, when you try to write code on a plane or in a
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
with bad connection, or you just don't want to log in. You know what? Script and see
Yeah.
code.
Yeah. For sure. It's you want that local development environment.
Right? So last year, uh, uh, somebody named Brendan Cole, very smart guy. He's a student in Cambridge. He built something called MiniFlare. So that's
Okay.
miniflare.dev, which is literally a full with KV and durable objects, everything, but it just runs locally. It uses Node, it just runs locally.
That's
And
wild.
we loved it. Yeah, we loved it. And immediately we were like, oh, he's in Cambridge. Let's just get him to intern immediately and see how we can like support the product. And not only did we
Yeah.
do that, and he shipped a couple of other nice things, which I'll show you, which the official type definitions, which are auto-generated from our internal thing. And I'll talk about that in a
Oh,
second.
nice, nice.
But he also um, Miniflare became an official Cloudflare project. So now it's under github.com/Cloudflare/Miniflare. And we're in close
Okay.
touch with Brendan as well. And hopefully he comes back to join us as a full-time employee once he's done with college. But once that happened, and one because we are, I also joined somewhere a little time, just around the same time, really. And
Okay.
I said, hey, we need to kind of. Wrangler is written in Rust right now, which is a great programming language, but
Hmm.
but it has a lot of problems, especially for JavaScript developers. So, for example, if there's an
Yeah.
error, right, there's no stack trace. And if you're a JavaScript developer, you have no idea how to contribute the fix back. If it was you and me
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was a JavaScript project, we just dive into node modules based on the trace and see like what's
Yeah. Yeah.
broken, right? So you can't do that. And it became very hard for our own users to contribute and actually hack on the thing. And so we decided that we'd do a full rewrite of it in TypeScript,
Okay.
which is
Cool.
the opposite of what the rest of the industry is moving to Rust. We took a Rust project and we moved it to TypeScript. And I should probably spend a couple of minutes saying, right? So, like I said, like contributions and making this thing, just the code base accessible, being able to
Yeah.
iterate on it was very important for us. Uh, Rust development and the use case was completely wrong. Rust is great for something like JavaScript infrastructure, which has to do a bunch of like CPU specific stuff. So, for example, if you're
Hmm.
building a bundler like SWC,
Yeah.
that's a great fit use case for Rust, right? Because there's a lot of parsing, a lot of CPU stuff. But like I mentioned, a lot of our stuff is actually happening on the edge. So it's a lot of API calls. So our
Yeah.
block is
Yeah.
really like on IO, right? Like on the network. So Rust wasn't really a win for us. Then we
Yeah.
had to do a number of things where, for example, because we're generating binaries, we have to make sure that we support every platform out there. So the moment that the new Apple laptop shipped, we were screwed because we had to generate like a new build for the M1 architecture, etc. But Node has solved us for this because they already do it. So we should just build on top of Node. So we had a number of reasons to do it, and Wrangler 1 used Webpack as the bundler, which is the slow bundler, right? It's the opposite thing. So instead of having Rust on top and Webpack at the bottom, we now flipped it where we have JavaScript on the top for all the things we hack on. And we use ESBuild like for our bundling stuff, which is, as you know, the fastest on the planet right now. It's something I think, and when I demo it to you, you won't even know that it's running. Like it just runs in the background in like milliseconds. Okay, so it's great for like starting projects. It's great for developing projects, and it's used for publishing projects also, like to the edge. So, and what I'm going to be demoing right now is the rewrite that we've been working on, which is very close to GA, like literally within the next, definitely in Q1. I need to write docs and stuff, but that's also why I'm on your live stream to show you stuff. Anyway, so I am going to go live.
All right, let's do this.
Going live. Okay.
All right, cool. All right.
Cool. I'm just awesome. So I already made a folder here, and it's empty. There's nothing in it. So I want to show you how to get started without installing anything, right? So what I'm going to do is make a file, and I'm going to make a TypeScript file. We support TypeScript out of the box. You can write JavaScript, but TypeScript is nice. And let's open up VS Code.
Yeah, I'm a fan of TypeScript.
It's so much nicer. And Flow kind of died because Flow is also nice. Anyway, so you make a worker by just defining a default thing, and you say, let's just make this hello world. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello world. I have Copilot on, which is great.
Oh, yeah, I've got that too. It's kind of funny to see the comments that Copilot generates sometimes.
Because
you can
awesome.
Somebody was frustrated in their repo. They're like, "This doesn't effing work." And
all right. So this is all I wrote, and what I'm going to say npx Wrangler at beta, because we're using the beta thing, but you remove the beta. I'll say dev index.ts. Okay, no installation, no nothing else, and well, it automatically asks you whether you want to install it. So let's do that. And it opens it up. And there are hotkeys. I love this, by the way. Everybody should use hotkeys when developing CLIs. So it says there are a bunch of hotkeys for opening stuff. So let's hit B and open up a browser. And you will see, hey, like, hello world, it's already working. And this is localhost, but it's actually kind of running the edge, which is nice.
Okay. So is it proxying to the edge on your local host, or what's it doing?
It's running on the edge, and we are proxying, like we have a proxy set up locally that talks to it. The reason that we have a proxy is because we can start editing, right? So let's actually take request. So the first parameter that's passed there is request. I'll say request.cf. Okay. CF is a special object on the thing. So watch mode is on by default, and it restarts it. So let's just restart this. And you'll see it still says hello world, but it said console.log. So you'll see it logged everything here, which is nice. But we have full-on DevTools. So I hit D and it opens up DevTools. It takes a little while to load. I need to make this faster. And this is a full-on proper DevTools, except it's connected to the edge, connected to your server, which is just mind-blowing, like for me. And you can see that this special CF object can tell you a bunch of interesting things about the request, like my postcode and where in England I am. See, it says that I'm in London, like my latitude, longitude. Oh, scary.
Yeah.
Well, it's fine. It's not too this thing. So you can do console log and stuff. And we are also going to work on making sure the network tab works. So for example, if you make requests inside this, you'll be able to literally see what requests are happening, the code here. We'll make source maps work as well. You can even do profiling. The profiling works as well, which is nice. Okay, so so I don't think I have Cloudflare D. Okay, so if you install Cloudflare D, which is it's a product called Cloudflare Tunnel, then we should automate the installation of this as well. So if you do that, then when you hit S, you can actually generate a URL that you can share with. So if this worked right now, I would have been able to get a URL and drop it in chat, and everybody would have been. This is like there are tools like ngrok. I think the Netlify CLI
Yeah.
also lets you do quite
Yeah,
nice.
I use ngrok a lot, but yeah, I heard about this. This is cool.
So it's the same thing. We give it to you for free with this, and I should, like I said, I should probably install it directly here. Then we have L, which is local mode, which is MiniFlare. So I hit L, and it turns it on to MiniFlare. So wait, I can just refresh this. And this is, yeah, so now it's all running on my, so for example, if I actually disconnected from Wi-Fi, this would still be working. But it's nice. There's a hotkey you can switch between, I think it's going to, there's a hotkey to switch between local mode to edge mode, which is quite dope. And then just one for X to exit. So already without any installation, you can get started with Wrangler. With the older Wrangler, you need to do like a whole configuration step. And I'll show you how to do that. That's also quite nice with the new Wrangler. But it just works out of the box with this. For folks who try this out, you'll also see that it asks you to log into Cloudflare. I already had logged in, which is why it didn't ask me, but it would just literally pop up a browser window and say, hey, enter your username, password. Okay, I'm going to, wait.
One thing while you're doing that is I like that you let because you're using the V8 isolate like you were saying on the edge, which is why you get access to those the dev tools. Like I guess it's using the remote debugging protocol or something.
Exactly, bang on. That's exactly what's.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Okay,
like
cool.
that's what it's. I mean, so I think we have like a forked version of it, and there are some modifications, but that's fine. Like it's better to fork instead of building it from scratch, right? I would rather use Paul Irish's work than build it by myself. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to like actually make a serious project. Okay, so I'll say npx Wrangler beta, and I'll just say init. So init instead, package.json. Would you like to create one? Yes. So it'll create one and it'll install Wrangler for you there. Would you like to use TypeScript? Yes. So now if you have a look at the folder, right, you'll see that, well, the package.json was done. It installed Wrangler, but it also installed the official type definitions. So this is, by the way, another thing that Brendan worked on. Like he parses the code internally and pulls out like the types from, I think, from the C++ code and generates the type definitions. So what that means now is I can use types on the thing. Look, request and the CF object, like, let's click into it. You'll see all the things that are available on that CF object. Like these are the actual, just so dope. And it means that you get everything else, right? Like autocomplete, everything. So it even generates the TS config. Wait, let me just close this so it's not confusing. We even generate a TS config file with like some defaults.
Some sensible defaults for the compiler.
Right?
Yeah.
So the nice thing about this compiler is that without any setup, a number of things already work. So I showed you TypeScript works. So does JSX. It defaults to React, but of course you can change React or Vue or whatever it is. NPM modules work. So if I want to just NPM module, I don't know, moment or date functions, just install it. We know how to do it. Just do an import and it all works. Watch mode works by default. So that's quite nice. Then there's a wrangler.toml file. So this is our configuration file. So let's do some fun stuff here. Let's kv namespaces equal to binding equals dev2. I think I made a namespace here. So let's see if this works, I guess. Use the same
so this
thing.
is you're just creating a friendly name for the auto
exactly
there.
Exactly. I don't have the thing where it automatically to the thing, but in any case, env. So const kv is equal to env.dev2 as kv namespace. Yeah, okay. So this also we will do an autogen. We have it working, but it's not in Wrangler yet. But now that you're here, you should be able to. You know what? Let's actually. It's kind of weird doing this on a GET request, but let's do it anyway. kv put. What is the signature for this key string? Right. Name. the
So
dev to live stream. And then we'll go into my dashboard and actually make sure that it works. So let's do an await here because that's how this needs to be an async function.
yeah,
Just love TypeScript sometimes.
cool, cool.
Okay, what happens if we run this now? Ooh, it might break, won't it? Let's see.
It's all good. It's always fun on a stream when things don't work right away.
Yeah, let's
But
see.
I
Okay,
feel
so we
pretty
do that.
confident.
I don't feel so confident. Okay, so it said that. So now let's actually go into the dash and see if it updated during the thing. Cha cha cha. Workers. So that's the worker there, by the way. But we want to go to
Okay.
the KV namespace, and I made one
Oh,
called
it's
dev2,
down there.
didn't I?
Yeah.
Is there a key value? Please, 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 please. Oh,
Oh,
sweet. So see,
yeah.
it actually
Nice.
got added.
Nice.
So uh, you can put well, let's see what all functions are there, right? You can just hover over. You can get, put, uh, list. You can list all the keys that are on it. You can add
Mhm.
metadata to a key, not just a attached like meta, and you can like delete stuff to it. These
Okay.
are also available on the you if you want to handle a KV namespace without having to write a worker for it, you
Okay.
can. There are actually commands for it here. So these are all the commands that you can do. So we saw dev. I haven't tried dev. Who am I? So that's actually kind of new. So let's just see if it
So it
works.
should give
What
you
happens if
your
I say you
login, I
wanna?
guess.
Yeah, it should tell you who you're. Oh, sweet. See, yeah, it shows you my account
Nice.
ID and stuff if you're logged in. You can tail, which is to say, you can for a worker that's in production, you can connect to it and you can start seeing logs,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
just nice. You can add secrets. So KV namespace stuff. So you can create whole new namespaces, delete list, KV key. You can key add. You can add by bulk.
Okay.
So let's say there are like 1,000 key values that you want to populate a thing with. Then you can literally
Mhm.
make a file. I'm sure that we have um,
Y-
a help thing for that. Yeah, see, you can do bulk put and bulk delete to the thing if you want to
Okay.
delete
Okay.
or put, which is great for like let's say you have or 10,000 photos. You have 10,000
Yeah.
photos, you can just use it to upload and then like you can read it based on the story application or whatever. So
Okay.
it's all there's that. Wrangler also supports the Pages product. Do you know what Pages is? You should call somebody from the Pages team
Yeah. Yeah.
to onto your live stream next, Glenn or Greg or Obina. Obina
I
is dope. Uh,
I made
so
a
Pages,
super easy one, but like just a hello world one, but it was a few
uh-huh.
months ago. So
So a few months ago would have been only static pages. Now you can use it. You can write workers along, which is to say you can write API endpoints and do data fetching and streaming and all the fun stuff.
okay.
I think
Cool.
there's
Cool.
a remix pages starter. I think which is it automatically sets up a remix project that runs on pages for you. But more
Okay.
importantly, the development of a pages worker happens now with the new rank. Oh, wait, npx with the new Wrangler. So you can do dev and you can create functions, and it's
Okay.
all very nice. So
Oh, that's
to
cool.
recap, uh, th- this is this is as much code as you need to get started without any installation or anything. You can literally just write this code and say npx wrangler at beta dev
Okay.
index.ts and you're off to the races. And then when you want to like add more complicated stuff like namespace bindings, durable object stuff, which we don't have time for today, but I'm
Yeah.
working on like a killer demo for it. Uh, uh, Other variables uh, and environments. So for example, you can define stuff for a staging environment, deploy it separately to staging,
Okay. Okay.
etc., etc. You can start from nothing, from 0 to 1. You can get going immediately, and you didn't even notice that ESBuild was right. Like ESBuild is that fast. All
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I was
compilation,
like,
everything is
you don't have to
happening.
set it up there. That's awesome.
We don't even mention it. We just like it just works. Uh,
Yeah.
and the idea is that I like this idea of gradually introducing complexity into a project, and that's what I think the new CLI and the way we want you to build software is. You get going
Yeah.
quickly,
Yeah.
and then you start adding stuff. uh, bindings and data and what have you. And then you deploy it to Cloudflare, which is super cheap. Envelop the planet Earth with your code. It'll just work. That's
Cool,
the
cool,
rough
cool.
idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to
Um,
stop sharing my screen now, I
oh
guess.
yeah, yeah.
Unless you wanted me to show you something else. Was that good?
No, no, that's good. It's good just seeing an overview of all the things. Uh, I definitely like the fact that having that CLI there, just 'cause, for deploying, and also just you're showing the bulk there, and that I can see being super useful if you're setting up and tearing down like a development environment or something. Like, okay, it broke something, let's just do it again,
Hmm.
and I mean, we didn't write a ton of code, but like everything seems to be pretty snappy. Like
It's
even
so fast.
like and you got like the hot reloading for the code there. Is that using NodeMon and TS Node or something, or is that just the TypeScript compiler under the hood? Or
So no, we're just using ESBuild for all
okay,
compilation.
okay,
We're so the thing with workers is that we can't reload your page for you. We can do a watch mode and
okay,
do a recompile, but we don't know what you're serving. It could be just an API input, right? If you're using
yeah, yeah,
pages, on the other hand, we can refresh your page because we know it's HTML and we can have a hook on that.
okay, okay, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
gotcha, gotcha.
I don't think we. So internally, no. I think I'm using some node module called watchdir, which is like, ESBuild has its own watch thing also as well, which is why
Okay, okay,
which makes it like so easy. Uh, yeah, ESBuild make there are so many things that I didn't show you, which is that now you can just use like WASM modules, custom
hmm,
builds. You can, let's say you're using a project from Reason, it's really easy to get that to run on workers. If it's
okay,
closure script, it's really easy to get that to run on workers. That's a lot to dive into. And you
yeah,
know
yeah,
me,
yeah,
I'm
no,
just
for
a
sure.
chatterbox. So I covered a lot of the live stream with just my chitter chat.
No, this is all great stuff, and it cleared up some misconceptions of some things I had. Um, uh, we were talking about this the other day, but I think it'd be cool to just, just shoot the shit about, JavaScript land or even web development land. Like there's been so many like I mean, I know you've been doing web dev for a long time too, but like, uh, I don't know. I just feel like even when people complain these days, I'm like, holy shit, like we've got amazing tooling these days. Like I know it'll get better, but it's still like I'm like, it's friggin' amazing. And it's like just like so many things, and it's just nice seeing I mean, I work in open source mainly, but it's just nice seeing projects riffing off of each other, like and just
Hmm.
like, okay, we made this better, and then like, okay, we like that idea. Because like I don't know about the hooks implementation in Vue, for example, but like I know they were inspired by React hooks, and like, and
Hmm.
just seeing stuff like that, it's nice, because like obviously Twitter is a bubble, and a lot of times it's a dumpster fire in tech land, but there's still a lot of good things. It's like I mean, I'm realistic. I understand there's a lot of shit going on in the world, but there's just I don't know. I'm just like super excited about all the cool things that have been happening, and I'm kind of curious. Like, I mean, obviously, you're a big fan of all things Cloudflare because that's where you work, and it is cool tech. But I don't know. Just kind of curious, like, what are some things you're excited about in web dev land right now? I mean, obviously, stuff on the edge for sure, but
We can, yeah, we don't have to talk about Cloudflare. I spoke about them for an hour. I got that. I can talk about other shit. Uh, so there are a number of things I'm actually interested in. Okay, so let me tell you. Okay, so when I got into JavaScript development in 2006, roughly 2005, 2006, after I got out of college. So I had done very
yeah,
poorly in college. I did really well to
okay,
get into college. Like I was a nerd and I got like a really great rank in the entrance test and I did really well. And then I
yeah,
discovered alcohol and started dating and I just didn't fucking do anything. So after 4 years, I
yeah,
did
yeah,
really poorly. So my job prospects weren't looking great. I originally thought that I'd do a postgrad and I don't know, funky computer science shit. Instead, I got into
yeah,
web development. At the time, it was still considered a toy language, not
yeah,
very serious. I think Prototype JS and Dojo and all were. jQuery wasn't even at the time. And there
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
even like, there weren't dev tools. Firebug launched in late 2006 or 2007, I think,
yeah, yeah,
maybe. which meant that all debugging had to happen. So anytime people talk about how right now it's complicated, I'm like, you fuckers have no idea how bad it was. You have no idea. You have not tried to render a PNG on IEC in your life. Something with
Yeah, what
alpha,
was the
anything
alpha channel?
transparent.
What was the trick you had to do? I forget, but
Just some. There were like four. In fact, there was also a JavaScript widget that would render rounded corners with you by rendering hundreds of tiny
yeah, yeah,
squares. Do you remember that? Like hundreds of
yeah,
tiny
yeah,
divs
yeah,
to give you an anti-aliasing. You all have no idea how bad it is. And I'm not gatekeeping. I'm actually, you
yeah,
should
yeah.
revel and you've been empowered to do so much. Anyway, so I was looking back at, I was actually thinking this recently, which is, uh, I started front end development.
Hmm.
jQuery and Scriptaculous and stuff came along and they made me a better front end developer.
Okay.
Node came in 2009 and made me a backend developer. 2013, 14, React came and it an even better developer. But more interestingly, in 2014, no, 2015 or 2016, React Native came out.
Yeah.
Uh, Now with workers, I'm becoming a serverless developer. So I haven't even changed like my norm. The industry has been like accommodating, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
because I swear to you, like I picked up an Objective C book. I picked up a Java book. I went through like 3 pages. I was like, this shit is not for me. It's
yeah.
not for me like at all. Uh, so it's really, and so that's one thing, which is that JavaScript is like eating everything. But even in JavaScript land, there are two
Hmm.
opposing forces that I'm seeing right now, and I love it. One is you must have noticed how front end frameworks are reaching into the back. So that you see this with
Yeah,
like
yeah.
stuff like Next.js, etc. already, right? Like front end developers develop full applications and they talk to
Hmm.
like services. And the back end is getting commoditized, where like you can buy a service for literally you buy a service for auth, you buy a service for some data, you buy a service for login. I saw
Yeah,
something
yeah.
called Clerk, I think the other day, which is literally it's a React component that gives you a login widget and a profile
Okay.
page. And I'm like, shit, that's a good idea. For $5, I would do it. Uh, anyway, so you see the front end going in and the back end getting prioritized. But, and this is
Yeah,
the opposing force that I'm seeing right now. This is leading front end developers to believe that they have everything they need to build serious applications. But that's not true. And I'm not gatekeeping when I okay. The web is a very big tent and there are thousands of types of applications. So don't come at me with shit you're talking about over engineered stuff. No, I'm talking like let's talk about
yeah,
e-commerce, right? Like
yeah,
to build a full stack e-commerce site, not only do you need a great front end, but you need to build a great backend. And when I say backend, I don't just mean APIs. I mean an admin
yeah,
panel where sales folks are trying to fulfill orders, looking at inventory,
yeah, yeah,
which means that you need to implement like queues and backups and monitoring and stuff like that. Like you start bumping cap, you have to start worrying about stuff like cap theorem, right? Like if you have a
yeah,
sale or something where there are only 5 items, how do you make sure that 6 people don't accidentally commit
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah,
carts
yeah,
when it's all happening in 1 second and the database has so so I'm actually seeing so that's what I'm saying, which is that I'm opposing force, which I think is the return of the backend. There's one product where that I'm particularly interested in. It's called Temporal. Do you know what temporal.io is?
yeah. Where Swixport's at
Sure.
with all the
Exactly.
workflows. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. So that's very fascinating to me because it takes what used to be just a bunch of like JSON file type things and it lets you write code. Programming model is beautiful. So what it does is anytime it hits any IO, right, which are the
yeah.
boundaries that it defines, it literally takes the state of the JavaScript engine that's running it and saves it to database.
Okay.
So what that means is that you can write a long running process. So for example, the way that it writes a subscription is wait for 30 days and hit the Stripe API. Okay,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
write
yeah, yeah.
you literally write a set timeout for 30 days and you
Yeah,
because it's not literally running a JavaScript process. No, it actually sleeps. It's stored in the database, the JavaScript engine state, and 30 days
yeah,
later it's brought back to life, call that code, and then it goes back in. Apparently, the timeout for a temporal workflow is 10 years. Like that's the default.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should ask Sean to verify this one. So anyway, so this I think is going to be the next big thing. By the way, these two
Mhm.
opposing forces. You can see it already in the front end. That's
Yeah.
what we talk about on Twitter all the time, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Honestly, part of me is a little bored with like the benchmark stories. Okay, sure. Thank you, I guess, for your free software which page. What I'm more interested in now, how people can iterate and build great products. You will see this in the
Yeah.
mobile dev industry. People don't talk so much about code, but they do keep sharing like the actual products and cool screens and
Okay.
stuff they're building. So I want to see that happen. But I see this thing that which is the resurgence of the back end, and then I want to see like how they meet. That'll happen, I think, over
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next 2 or 3. I think that's the thing to keep an eye out from. I'm very it's very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Temporal is just one example, by the way. There are many things, like just literally your like even Terraform is exciting in the same way, but uh,
Yeah.
like their pseudo whatever language. But anyway, so that's what I think. If you had to ask me what I'm looking at right now in terms of where I
Yeah.
see the motion happening, I think these two things are the that are particularly interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I did a live stream with Andrew Brown, who does a lot of cloud stuff, and I've never done Terraform, and I basically was live coding Terraform, and and I I I like this idea of coding infrastructure because, like, it's easier to, well, in my brain it's easier to code than say what's this config file or whatever, and from what I've never used Temporal, but I listened to Sean. He has I, I wouldn't really call it a podcast. It's called the Switz Mixtapes, and it's like
The
just
mixtape.
basically anything he wants to put up. Sometimes it's snippets of things, but he's talked about Temporal IO, and it's you're writing code versus config in terms of the workflow. Because I unfortunately had to work with SharePoint at one point, and
Oh
like
no.
building there was this product for building workflows and stuff, and it's just very it seemed like on the surface easy to build a workflow, but like debugging and everything like that, like I don't know what the debugging story is with something like Temporal, but it just seems like, hey, I want to write it in code, and it's just easier on my brain, and it's like easier to read than an actual config or like a JSON file, right? Because your brain, well, my brain at least, it's like I see a JSON file, I can go, okay, I guess this is a chunk of data, and yes, okay, maybe reading some of the keys, like, okay, I get an idea what it is, but seeing the code, like you said, like the set timeout, like that's pretty clear to me, so that's definitely interesting too, and I think the things I'm excited about too, and I kind of alluded to this before, but like the tooling is so amazing today, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the tooling space, and I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but there's stuff like replay.io from it. I think it's Jason Laster. I don't know if that's how you say his
Laster.
last name. He used to
Laster.
work on the Firefox dev tools, and
That's right.
and that's like the whole rewind and like see your entire, like, not just like a stack trace or like the state of it. It's like you can actually see the recording, I think, too, and like literally what like your users did and stuff like that is, I'm just like, and just, yeah, just so many build tooling too, like you were talking about ES build and stuff, like, and I know, just kind of want to give a shout out to like Webpack or even other stuff, like the other one's escaping me. It's older. It was
Parcel.
before Webpack. No, it
Browserify.
was like Browserify. Yeah, like people might complain about these now, but these people built better ones by being inspired by these things. So like I understand why people like to knock these things sometimes, but I kind of also like to think like, well, these other things would have never existed probably if these things
Exactly.
didn't exist. So it's
100%.
like, not to be like old man shouting at clouds or anything, but it's like, and I know they're still making improvements to Webpack, but it's just all those things, like, just it blows my mind. Like, I mean, even when you were demoing before, but like, just like you're typing something, you're like, I haven't even left my editor yet, and like it's already been updated before I even get to my
Yeah.
browser. It's
Yeah.
pretty
Oh,
cool.
that's so good.
And
I've shipped way
yeah,
more
no.
stuff with Browserify than with anything, by the way. Like My
Mhm.
browserify days, I was shipping, and it was awesome. And it was, I mean, like even Babelify, like it actually intersected,
Yeah,
Babel intersected with browser, and they had Babelify for running Babel over
yeah,
your code. That was pretty awesome, man. Like really great days. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
well, I somebody said this recently in a tweet, and I forget, maybe Sebastian. He said it's weird when you compare A and B, right? Where B is the new thing and A
yeah,
is the old. A can only be judged on its past, whereas B is judged on its future. And
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
sucked because really, if you think about it, B is an evolution of A. So uh, how do we, that maybe we actually as an industry lack the vocabulary or the attitude to actually talk about it, right? But you see this all the time when someone introduces competitor. Dude, they're all
yeah,
free. Shut the fuck up. You don't have to say like competitor. But you will always see this when you're comparing. Like A, you'll say, hey, A is so old and it used to do these things. B is the new thing, still not used in production by many people, and it will do these things in the future. And you
yeah, yeah,
always see this when you compare. And I'm like, that's not, yeah, it is what it is.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. But it is still amazing seeing all that tooling. Like even Parcel, I haven't used Parcel in production apps. Not, it's definitely production ready. It's just like the apps I've been working on. Like the past two jobs I've been at, it's been a Rails backend, and so like we're using a Webpacker gem, which just integrates with Rails and stuff. So it's Webpack and stuff. But yeah, no, Parcel, like I think with Parcel, it's just like you just say like, write my file, it just knows, okay, oh, this is TypeScript, okay, I'll process that. Oh, this is a SAS
Oh,
file, I'll do
so good.
this, it's like, but yeah, no, all that stuff's exciting me, and yeah, just cool stuff people are doing, like I don't know, like I see some stuff that people build, and even when they're like, yeah, I did this for fun, it blows my mind. Like I don't know if you follow Charlie Gerard. She works at Netlify, but she's always doing stuff with machine learning and like front end,
I do
and
follow Charlie. Yes,
and
she's
I'm
amazing.
like you see this stuff, and like I think the last one I saw, she posted it on Dev too, but she's creating stuff in Figma using her hands and
I saw
gestures,
that.
and like
Holy shit. Just
yeah,
yeah,
and just
yeah,
all
that's
kinds of
that
stuff like that, and she's done fun stuff too. Like I think she did like a Flappy Bird clone, but you're using your. I think she was either using her eyeballs or hands. I can't remember, but like that's not something that's going into production, but it's like a fun way to convey like, holy crap, you can do pretty cool stuff. So just stuff like
I
seeing
mean that's
stuff
what
like
the web
that, or
has yeah, that's what the web has always been good for. Yeah,
yeah,
I hope it stays that way.
yeah. Cool, cool, man. Well, listen, I know it's getting a little later on your end or end of your day, but I don't know if there's anything else you want to chat about. But if not, like we can
Well,
call it a
it
day.
was
Either
nice
way,
seeing you again. I always
yeah,
like
yeah.
talking with you. It was really fun seeing you again, and thanks for having me over. I am grateful, and it's always nice to. We do like talking about the stuff we are working on all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, and
Yeah,
we're creatures of ego, I guess. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
very grateful. Thank you so much for. I'll see
Cool,
you
cool,
one.
cool. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, and everybody, thanks for tuning in. And next week, got to double check my schedule, but I'm pretty sure we got Ben Holmes, who created Slinkity. He's gonna be joining us, and I'm gonna be in the hot seat. We're gonna start off with, I think, NPX Slinkity, and just see where we go with it. So looking forward to that. Take care, everybody. Thanks again so much, Sunil, and I'll see everybody next week.